Building up a business from scratch, ensuring that every step is followed properly, is just like laying brick upon brick to ensure a solid foundation. You first have to come up with a good idea, an idea that is going to make you money. So whether it's growing or selling roses or growing and harvesting seeds to sell to small-scale farmers, it's all about finding financiers who believe in you and your potential. That is where the East African Development Bank steps in. They are the dream weavers for many budding and established businesses across East Africa. The bank was established just over 40 years ago under the Treaty of the then East African Cooperation. Following the breakup of the community 10 years later, the bank was re-established under its own charter in 1980. And there are many businesses across the region that have relied on the EADB to give them that helping hand when they have needed it. Like paper sliding easily through a well-oiled machine, Color Print is a business that has steadily moved up since it was started in the 60s. The first machine they owned was this Gestetner duplicating press that still runs almost 40 years later. At the time, technology started changing quickly and printing became more sophisticated. Color Print had to keep up with the times but needed a loan to buy machines, and that was the beginning of their relationship with the EADB. Today, Color Print specializes in color printing and their clients include Safaricom, the United Nations, AMREF, and educational booklets. They supply books and printing materials across all of East Africa as well as Ethiopia. Color Print chairman Bhushan Vidyati says that the standard of printing at his company is as good as the best you'd find in Europe, but that it all started with his father's love for newspapers. Mr. Vidyati, welcome to the program. Talk to us about the beginnings of your business.
Thank you. Our family has been in printing industry since 1932. My father started his first printing press back in 32. He was a journalist by profession, and later on he had his own printing press where he was producing paper. And before that, they used to produce handwritten newspaper for the friends to read. That's way back.
Yes.
But 1968, we established Color Print. Before 68, we had a printing press called Colonial Printing Works. And he was producing a newspaper called Colonial Times, a Swahili newspaper called Jicho, Habari za Dunia. These are all papers which were being supported by the African masses.
Yes.
A lot of our leaders had written for that paper because that was the only paper that would express their feelings. In 68, of course, we started Color Print with a very small printing machine in a room which was 12 by 12. And this is where we are today.
Indeed. Of course, it does. It does take a lot of money to have what you have today. Talk to us about the financing that has taken place over the time then.
Yeah. In 68,
and who has come on board?
Yeah, on 68, it was a buyer's market. Offset was just coming into the country. Before that, the mode of printing was letterpress, and the manufacturers of offset machines in Europe were very keen to establish their companies in Kenya or East Africa rather. And we had, when they heard that we have started a printing press, we had visits from these people asking us to buy their machines. We said, we don't have finance. And they said, who's asking for finance? You take the machine, use it for 6 months, and if you like it, you keep it, then we'll talk about repayments. And before we knew, the machines were being offloaded into the premises. And we have never looked back after that. Then, of course, when you grew up, you needed more machines and more sophisticated equipment. Then we had to look towards the banks. And the situation changed where it was no longer a buyer's market. And we had to ask for finances. With the growth, you need money, you need machinery, so you have to approach finance institutions.
Oh, whom did you approach?
Well, we have been fortunate that our bankers have been helping us a lot. And in the main person or company which finances was the EADB Bank.
The East African Development
Eastern
Bank.
Development Bank.
Yeah.
We showed them what we want. They came and visited us. They saw what we are doing, and we applied for the loans. And luckily, they accepted that, and they financed quite a lot of equipment.
I see. I am told their formula is very different from other banks. Talk to me from that. Is this the type of bank that comes and dumps money and runs away, or they work with you?
No, they work with us. They finance. In fact, we are in the process of buying another machine now, which in principle they have agreed to finance that machine. They have been very, very good.
Okay, so they stay with you.
Yeah, they stay with us.
The other thing also that really the philosophy I hear for the bank is that they want to see whether there is impact in poverty reduction and job alleviation, at least.
Of course.
Right. Now, would you say you have answered to that call?
Of course.
And how?
Of course. You see, what happens is when the country is growing, the economy is growing, there's more work, you need more machinery, you need more employment, you need more people to man those machines. And that's been what's been happening. We have increased our workforce from, when we started, we had 30 people employed by us. Now we have 135. And they are full-time workers.
Full-time workers, breadwinners, and of course the impact we know probably representing a minimum of 5 people. So you are impacting?
You're impacting, you're very much impacting.
And growing?
And growing, and growing.
We have to leave it there, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tourists from all over the world come to Arusha in Tanzania to take photographs of the statuesque Mount Kilimanjaro, and some even decide to climb it. One of the reasons this town has very good hotel accommodation. Like this Blue Diamond, the Naura Springs Hotel. It is a 4-star hotel with 125 rooms. Construction of Naura Springs started in 2002, but the owners wanted such high standards that they needed a loan to achieve this. Today, the hotel has 11 floors with 2 restaurants and conference facilities. So welcome to the program. Talk to us about the beginnings of your business.
25 years back, I started with Impala Hotel with the 27 rooms. Afterwards, I add some rooms up to 160. After that, I explore another area with the 300 rooms hotel, Ngurdoto Mountain Lodge. So this one, it was Impala Hotel, and the second one, it is Ngurdoto Mountain Lodge. After that, the business was good. I added another idea of having Naura Springs Hotel. That's where I went to East Africa Development Bank to source for money. I asked for $3 million to add it to my capital to make sure the hotel comes nicely and it goes with the time. So that's where now I have 3 good hotels with the 160 rooms, 300 rooms, and the Naura Springs Hotel, 125 rooms with executives, presidentials, and the standard rooms. And the 4 restaurants, which it occupies a continental restaurant, Chinese restaurant, Italian, and Indian cuisine. So that's where the money came from East Africa Development Bank, and up to now, we are doing well. Bad luck, there is a recession, this financial recession in the world, but still, because we did well, the way we finished our hotel, we're still pushing nicely. We are getting business, at least to make sure things are moving forward.
Mr. Mreme, I hear you when you say you started off and you did this, you got this hotel first and that hotel first. I don't hear you talking about where you got that money.
Oh, yes. I come from a peasant. My father and my mother, they were just a poor peasant. And I started myself working very hard to make sure what I wanted to do, I do it nicely by using professionals, and I get a good success. That's why up to now, I don't go very far from professionals.
You went to ask for money, $3 million from the East African Development Bank. Did you have a business plan?
Yes, I got a business plan, nice business plan for the Naura Springs Hotel. And also I have got my investment in that. And I don't start from the ground, from the East African Development Bank. I have started the superstructure, and the East African Development Bank, they gave me money for finishing, furnitures, and something like that.
I'm assuming it's a relationship that didn't end after they gave you money. Are you still working with them?
Yes, up to now we are very much friendly because we are partners, and I'm doing fine with them. There's no quarrels, and they are good. The bank, they do understand. If there is a problem, I just tell them there is a problem. They tell me what to do, and we are comfortable with them.
You spoke earlier, Mr. Mremi, about the issue of the economic downturn, which affected everybody around the world, and I'm sure business people like you are also affected. Did you get to any point where you needed to maybe go back to the East African Development Bank and say, could we reschedule because things were not quite good this time?
Up to now, thank God, it is moving nicely, no rescheduling. Maybe in the future, if there is something wrong, then we can reschedule if there is a big problem. But up to now, if there is delays, they are good bank, they do understand.
I'm told you work in the night. Could you just explain to me why you do that?
There is a secret behind it. You see, in our region, or Africa for that matter, there is a lot of people in the daytime. So I do work in the night. It is more productive to me. In the daytime, I do work like a politician. People, they queue looking for me, either getting assistance or funds or something like that. So it is, I cannot concentrate at all. It is difficult for me to concentrate in the daytime. So in the daytime, if there is official matters, I do work in the daytime. But if it is normal transactions, normal business for myself, I prefer in the night because I can concentrate much. So to me, I get more fruits in the night rather than in the afternoon.
Mr. Mremi, it's been good talking to you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, and let us hope for the best.
We all.
Yes, but let me assure you, working with the East African Development Bank, it has been a pleasure.
Athi River Mining is headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya, and is one of the main players in Kenya's cement market. Athi River Mining, which is an annual turnover of about 75 million United States dollars, has built plants throughout Kenya, as well as neighboring states like Tanzania. This lime plant was funded by the East African Development Bank. Pradeep Poundrana, the managing director of the company, says the EADB understood the intricacies of their business and that which their company needed. Mr. Poundrana, welcome to the program. Talk to us about the first contact that ARM had with the East African Development Bank.
Thank you. Athi River Mining Limited was started in 1970s, early 1970s, as a small company mining and processing agricultural lime. Over the years, from in the 1970s and early 80s, the company diversified into a variety of industrial minerals for use in paint, rubber, glass, ceramics, and so on. Our first contact with East Africa Development Bank was in the early 80s, when they funded our diversification into marble and granite cutting industry. In a 3 or 4 year space between 1984 to 1987, 88, we became one of the largest producers of granite in Southern Africa. And that was our first major leap as a company, with some funding help from East Africa Development Bank. In 1993, we decided to go into cement manufacture. And again, East Africa Development Bank was one of the institutions that came in together with a consortium of bankers to support our diversification into cement manufacture. In the 1999-2000, we decided to branch out of Kenya into Tanzania. And in 2002, East Africa Development Bank gave us our biggest funding line to date, which was about $1 million, to set up a lime plant in Tanga in northern Tanzania. That project was very successful. We repaid the loan very quickly, and we got a second loan to increase the capacity, in fact, double the capacity for lime. And in 2008, we made a very ambitious leap in our cement business to set up the largest single-line cement plant in East Africa. It was a 1.5 million ton per year capacity plant in Tanga, of which East Africa Development Bank is again one of the partners in the consortium of the lenders.
Now, why has the EADB become such a lender of choice for you?
East Africa Development Bank takes time to understand our business and helps us to develop our business plan, and works with our finance team and our project team in setting out the execution plan. So it is of great comfort when we work with East Africa Development Bank, and we know that they will take lead in certain areas of the consortium of lenders.
How many people do you employ?
The company has grown, as I mentioned,
Yes.
from the 1970s. We currently employ nearly 2,000 people in Kenya and another 1,500 people in Tanzania. We have a small operation in South Africa as well, where we employ about 40 people. So job creation is clearly part of the growth of our company. In terms of corporate social responsibility, I like to use the word corporate social investment, which is what we have been doing for many, many years. Last year, we officially or formally set up what we call our Rhino Cement Foundation. Rhino Cement, our flagship brand, and then the main contributor to our earnings of our company, is putting aside a certain percentage of its revenues into a foundation specifically to invest in education, health, and environment. We have many programs which are run by members of our staff in the various locations in Nairobi, in Mombasa, in Tanga, in Johannesburg as well, who use part of these funds to help communities around them, school education programs. They not only write out a check, but they make sure that the people who benefit are known to the company staff, become associated over a long period of time, and we have one benchmark to know whether our investment is working or not, and that is to see the people that benefit, do they benefit others in the community later on? And it is our responsibility, and our members enjoy that, to help them along, to make sure that they are useful members of society and contribute to society in a meaningful way also. So that is what we do, not just a responsibility, but an investment.
Well, with an investment like that, I hope that those people you do get to train at times will then come back and be in your employees. So thank you very much for having been my guest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. This is one of the pre-primary classes at Greenhill Academy in Kampala, Uganda. It is a private school that was the dream of two teachers who were also sisters almost 20 years ago. In the early 90s, there were very few private schools in Uganda, and most of them were considered to be of inferior standard. The sisters were offered this piece of land to build a primary school. They started off with a day school with about 35 learners and ended up with 250 learners at the end of the year. 12 months later, they wanted to branch out by building a high school, but no banks at that time were interested in funding schools. As a project that would have major developmental impact on Uganda's education sector, the EADB gave them a loan of just over $300,000. They built libraries and even started offering a mixed day and boarding school. A second loan was granted to help build their boarding school premises. Today, the school has just over 2,500 learners, including learners from various countries like Tanzania, Kenya, South Sudan, and Ethiopia. And their plans don't end there. They want to build a mall opposite the school, as well as build another primary school in a different part of Kampala. This is Ebony Park in Nairobi, Kenya, a high-end luxury gated community. Emma Choki is a property developer who started out small but had great visions about growing a property empire. The East African Development Bank helped her finance projects like these and was instrumental in a company's growth. Ma'am, welcome to the program. Talk to us about the beginnings of your business.
We began the business because we had a house along Riara Road, near what is currently the Junction Mall. And when they started constructing the mall, we realized that with a huge mall coming up, the neighborhood was not going to be the same. So we decided to do something with the place that we had and move on. And we met a friend who encouraged us to do apartments. And that's where it started. We put up the apartments, we sold them, and we moved on. It's been exciting. We've done these villas now, and moved on to other apartments along Mombasa Road, moved on to apartment hotel in Mombasa, and now we're doing maisonettes in Athi River.
Well, you really didn't set out to starting a business, which of course then brings me to the question on whether you had any money to invest.
No, certainly nowhere near enough to do the apartments. But then there are financial institutions, development financial institutions, that are willing to listen to people who have a good idea and not enough money to do it and haven't been in business before. The development banks, we started off with Shelter Afrique and moved on to East African Development Bank. And they've been our partners in the projects that we've done. They've continued to finance us from one project to the other.
Well, let's talk about that, because you don't have any experience, and then you go to this bank. What do they say? What do you tell them?
They say where and who's your market, and they basically want to know why it's a good idea. And once they know that it's a good idea and they look into what you've done in the past, your background, you're a person of credibility, they are willing to go with you.
Well, there are many people with an idea, and some of them are watching us now. What would you tell them? Just have the idea and it will work?
I would say they need to look at the number work on their great idea and walk to a development bank. Talk to them about the great idea that they have. And what is interesting about the development banks is they actually tell you what to go back and put together. They tell you the reason we would finance you or not finance you is because you have this, that, or the other, and they can go back and put it together. But what is would also be good for them is to also talk to some of us who started, and we just tell them how we managed. But the development banks, that is their purpose, to develop people. And after you've developed with the development bank, you can then move on to the commercial bank because they want all the history and everything. But the development banks start with you.
Well, I mean, your journey, from what you've told us with the EADB, it's been long, and you say you're still together even up until now. But I'm sure you're also aware on what they expect for businesses that go to them to do. Job creation, poverty alleviation. Would you say you're making a dent in at least alleviating poverty and creating jobs?
Oh yes, certainly. Some of the things financiers are becoming, well, they've always been keen on things like job creation. What is the impact of the project that you're doing to jobs, to the economy in general? But right now they're even moving beyond that and looking to what is the impact of your project on the environment? What are you doing about environmental issues? And sometimes you can even get a better percentile